Old World, Florida. Dr. Narco Longo. Brought to you by the Florida Department of Magic. Welcome to Florida, baby. Florida is the original Garden of Eden. Florida has the highest concentration of freshwater springs in the world. Florida oranges are the golden apples of mythology. A race of giant men once roamed this peninsula. The Smithsonian can suck my balls. Florida is littered with many ancient megalithic ship anchors, known as sacks or stones. I'm bringing Saxa back. Noah's Ark was constructed out of gopher wood. Gopher wood only grows one place in the world, Florida. Florida is the birthplace of the United States. The first Thanksgiving was in Florida. Let the black drink flow. Orange man good. Click his way out of Florida.
What's up, everyone? Happy Saturday. It's December 27th. I'm coming to you live from the Dancing Elephant bookstore. Tonight, we're going to be talking about God's true calendar. We're going to be talking about the book of Enoch. We're going to be talking about the Essenes. But importantly, or kind of how it relates to most people out there, we're going to be dispelling a lot of myths and misconceptions, debunking a bunch of nonsense. Okay. And a lot of this nonsense has to do with the solar calendar and the Gregorian calendar and people hating on it without knowing why they're hating on it. And then the turtle shell. All these people talking about the turtle shell. They took our calendar away. The moons, the 13 perfect moons, it was all so perfect until they took it away. Now, as nice as that, as interesting and dramatic as that sounds, and as valuable as that currency is, passed around on social media for your truth or street cred, most of that's nonsense. And we're going to be setting the record straight, and we're going to have the Bible to help us do it. So this is a continuation of our Casting Couch Astrology podcast. And I don't know, we're at almost 10th episode or so now. We do this every Saturday night, so make sure to tune in. But yeah, guys, that's what we're getting into tonight. And before we get into it, what's up with you, Merlin? Any thoughts?
Dude, it's going to be a good episode and a complicated episode, and full of lots of highs and lows because people are going to be disappointed with stuff that they have heard in the past. But when it comes to timekeeping, it's both important, and most civilizations, as we'll see, there are big connections. Like, very few people have everything wrong, but also very few people have everything right as well. And it's really, really complicated to really get to the nitty gritty of this, honestly. That's my thoughts on it, my initial thoughts.
Yep. And man, there's so much good stuff to talk about, but I almost wanted to save this for last, but guys, I've stumbled on the ultimate truth, okay? Me, I'm my TikToks about the calendar trump everybody else's, okay? When I whine about the calendar, I do it like nobody else, okay? And I'm here to tell you, all of you, you've all been lied to. You all have it wrong, okay? You think it's the turtle shell calendar? That's a deception. That's a psyop. Psyop. You know what it really is, guys? Here's the real calendar. You really think the Illuminati is going to let you use the real calendar? Okay, I dug this up from the Chicxulub crater, and this is the real calendar, guys. Okay, we're talking to Shars over here. If you're not using the Tribolite calendar, you're just a fool if you don't have one of these. Okay, you don't know anything. You've all been duped. Yeah, you've clearly got the 528 Shars within the Sumerian calendar, and then you've got the hours on Zeta Reticuli around the rim here. It's the divine true calendar. And if you don't have that, well, you're shit out of luck. But sorry, turtle calendar, turtle cells. That's the real calendar. So we're just gonna wrap the episode up here, and you guys have a good night. But
good night, everybody.
No, hang on, guys. Don't click. All right, so we're just joking. That's just a tribolite or trilobite, whatever the fuck they call them. And I'm trying to make fun of the people here who think they've got the ultimate Uno card. How many times, maybe you guys have noticed this, maybe not. How many times are there these toxic truthers who are just so condescending and smug, and they're like, oh, you haven't woken up to that deception yet? That's weird. Oh, you're still using actual days? You're still using actual Gregorian calendar? Oh, you're so far behind. And a lot of these people mindlessly say the turtle shell is the real calendar. The turtle shell is a lunar calendar and has 13 months with 28 days and it's perfect. Oh, it's perfect, you know? That's false. So where's a good place to start with this? A good place to start, and we're coming up on New Year's here. That's why we're talking about this too. We're going to be doing a couple calendar themed shows. A good place to start with this is talking about the calendar that we do use. Is it really as corrupted as everyone complains about? Is it really so bad? Is it really, worth scoffing at and complaining about? No, it's not. My opinion, and I think Merlin's is too, is that the Gregorian calendar is pretty damn perfect. Pretty dang good. It's a solar calendar, and if that's the system you're working with, it's the best. It works. Now, there's some things I would change, and Merlin has his critiques too. But it's a damn good solar calendar. Now, we're going to be talking about the different types of calendars, so we can, try and sort out the confusion here, right? Help people understand, at least make a conscious decision as to what calendar you want to use. Let's talk about the solar year. And just right off the bat, the turtle shell is not a lunar calendar. So we're going to talk about the lunar, we're going to talk about the turtle shell. The turtle shell is something way more amazing than the lunar calendar. And the 364-day calendar, not necessarily a one-for-one with the turtle shell. Only in rare instances, and you got to know how to count it. So we're going to talk about that. But right off the bat, turtle shell, not a lunar calendar. That's undisputable. It's not a lunar calendar. Let's also get into, well, blah blah blah. Let's start off with solar. Let's look at some stuff. You want to pull up some of these slides?
Yeah, you want the Gregorian calendar first?
Can we look at some people complaining about?
Oh yeah, sure. So, do you want to put us to the side so they can see everything?
Yeah, good idea.
So yeah, this is a post from X that we found, and it reads, "There was once a 13-month calendar adhered to by many ancient cultures based on the 13 moon cycles in a year, with each cycle lasting approximately 28 days." And then they go into the math, right? 13 times 28 equals 364 plus 1, marking the rising of a new sun. The names of modern months reflect remnants of an older system. September is derived from 7, but is now the 9th month. October means 8, but is now the 10th month. November is 9 and is now the 11th, and Dec is 10 and now the 12th. How could this be? I've got those. Oh, go ahead.
No, that's exactly right. That I didn't even mention that part. I forgot about that. People get so tripped up over the months. That is totally explained. Doesn't need to be corrected. It's easily explained with astrology. If you know your zodiac, you know exactly why September is when it is, you know. But yeah, anything else?
No, that's it.
Any
I
more?
mean, it's the more I learn, the more like astrology isn't for everybody. You know, like that's what it comes down to. Like I think knowledge is meant to be a little bit occulted, and like the elites kind of do a good job, somewhat, of that, of like occulting some knowledge, because it's not for everybody, honestly.
Did you get any of those reels I sent you?
Yes, but last time we tried playing sound on my browser, it didn't work. You want to try it again?
If you use Chrome and drag a video straight into a Chrome tab, it should play pretty easy.
I use WaterFox. Let me
What or Fox are you talking about?
WaterFox is dope. Let's see. Any sound?
This is why I've said.
Okay, here, this one's perfect. I'm gonna roast this guy.
Okay, can I go with it?
No, I don't think we heard anything from that.
Let's give it a
Oh,
second.
wait.
Yeah, I think you do.
No, only through your mic. Here, I'll pull them up on my
Okay.
thing.
Sorry, guys. Technical difficulty. Work with us. It's gonna be good.
Okay, so here's a good one. This kind of just like sums up what people think. How people just mindlessly repeat what they've heard or read in Instagram reels. I don't mean to pick on this guy. Well, I don't know. I guess I do a little bit, but
A little bit.
might throw in a little impression of him at the end. Who knows? All right, tell me if you can hear this.
That they are giving us,
Can you hear that?
Yeah, yeah.
that they are giving us are incorrect.
Okay.
Said, the dates that they are giving us are incorrect. We used to have 13 months, 28 days, and 1 day of rest, even in the Bible. So look, we have 13 lunar cycles of 28 days, 13 zodiac signs. Every turtle shell you'll find, 13 sections in the middle, and 28 notches along the side, all to keep us disconnected from these natural cycles of our realm. Listen to David Strait explain it more.
Our calendar is not quite right.
Don't you hate? You know that, guys, do you know that there's an entire brand, an entire breed class of truthers who just make crappy TikToks? I'm not even talking about this guy.
It's
I'm
so
talking,
true.
I'm talking about the reactors who are just like,
Oh yeah, when they're always
They're in-
pointing
they're-
at the screen. dude.
they're unemployed and they're just in their living room and they're just like listening. Dude, I have zero respect for people who do the pointing reaction.
There was a really good eyebrow impression because they do like furrow their eyebrows, like how about that? Very smug.
So smug and condescending and the worst type of truther. But all right, on with it.
We're supposed to have 13 months of 28 days, with 1 day, the day of resurrection, Easter, as a neutral day. That's our 365 days. We've actually got 13 constellations, not 12. This same calendar is very close to the Mayan calendar, but it's also very
Wrong.
close to several ancient Sanskrit calendars.
This is very, very good calendar.
What does sept mean? 7. I thought that was the 9th month. What
I Pakistani Air Force lunar calendar, very good. Long live Pakistan.
does Oct be? Christ.
All right, so there's some truth to what this guy's saying, and no disrespect to the guy on screen, but I think people are just a little confused. So let's sort something out real quick. This is going to save everyone a lot of headache. Okay? You don't have to call it Gregorian if you don't want to, whatever. The spring equinox is always the spring equinox. It's always March 21st, give or take a day. March 21st. The fall equinox, September 21st, maybe add a day or two. They're fixed there. Always in the same spot. We're never going to get lost. Okay. It's using the solar year to anchor itself. The equinoxes and the solstices. So just leave everything else to the side right now. If we're starting number 1 at March at the spring equinox, then all the months line up perfectly. That's all you got to do. That's the only, and it's not even a switch. It's just something you got to be aware of. It's not even something that needs to be corrected. Start with March. Here, let's put us in our spot. Start with March, number 1. Watch this. March, April, May. Let's see if I know the months. March, April, May, June, July, August, September, October. Oh, look at that. 8. September's on 7. October's on 8. November's on 9. December's on 10. That's how you rectify that. That's simple. You just start in March and nothing's out of sync. You just start somewhere else and voila, the months line up exactly where they're supposed to. So 13 months has nothing to do with sept being 9 versus 7, or October being 10 instead of 8. 13 months has nothing to do with that. 364 has nothing to do with that. Constellations have nothing to do with that. So I'm sorry, guys, as interesting as this stuff is to pass around and whine about, it's just not rooted in truth. And that's why astrology is some of the best bedrock to use when you're diving into all these theories and conspiracies and, So, okay, we've got the 3. We'll just start in March. Okay, you're starting in March 1, April, and then there you go. That's the order of the zodiac, and that's how you line up the names of the months with the number of the month. So, any thoughts on that, Merlin?
Yeah, that's beautifully simple, as God intended it to be. September is indeed the 7th sign of the zodiac, Libra. And the 7th planet, Saturn, exalts in the 7th sign on Saturday, the 7th day of the week. It's Saturn's day. So like 777, that's all Saturn. And that's the design you need to understand, is the astrological design of everything. October, Scorpio is the 8th sign. It's the 8th month, in that sense, but from March, like you're saying. So yeah, it's perfect.
Yep, absolutely. So that's a solar year. And the zodiac, the tropical zodiac, is a solar system. It is attached to the seasons. And as we've said before, astrology is not just the study of the stars. It's almost a little bit of a misnomer, the way most people use it, because it's the study, the science of light, heat, humidity, magnetism, pressure. Go ahead.
Dr. Longo, we have a great question in the chat from Sean. And he says, so do we really know what time and date it is? Sean, we've got good news for you, bud. We do. Do you want to comment on that? Because you were talking about that earlier.
What? I don't know.
Oh, I mean, it's just, we know what time and date it is based on astrology. That can't be hidden. That's what God put there in the sky for us. So yeah, we know what time and date it is based on the movements of the sun and astrology. So that's another thing. They always say, oh, they're hiding the real time from us. Oh, there's all these missing years. Are there great resets? Maybe, but how many years can there really be missing? It's all astrologically encoded with the astrological precession.
Yeah, all those whiny TikToks that are like, they took away our 13 moon calendar so that they could pay us 1 month less, on our salary, right? It's like, that's very shallow thinking, and it doesn't go back very far. What they should be whining about is the lack of astrological literacy, that people can get psyoped so easily because they're so disconnected, not only from the seasons, but constellations, the movements of the heavens, the greater cycles, right? If you want to know when we are, where are we, when, where in time, just look up, get a hold of, get a grasp of astrology. What did God say in the Bible? Let's back this up with the Bible. We're going to talk about this solar year. And the Bible discusses a couple of years. There's a couple of years used in the Bible, but solar is something that most. Well, here let's approach it from this angle. Let's go over to your slideshow.
Sure.
People think the Gregorian calendar, because we call it Gregorian, because it's named after someone, because it's, seemingly recent. People think that it's not rooted in anything real or traditional, right? Now, that's not entirely correct, Merlin, right? That's actually like totally false.
Correct.
Gregorian calendar is a solar calendar that it uses a 365.25 day year. That's where we get the leap year, right? The 0.25. We tag on an extra day every 4 years. And that's simple. Comparatively, to other calendar systems, that's a pretty simple little, not a fix, but a little adjustment that makes everything run smoothly. And guess what, guys? Uncle Sam didn't come up with that, Rockefeller didn't come up with that, to rip us off on the work week. That goes back to, well, I forgot what I was going to say, but the 365-day year was not just created in America very recently, right? Or Gregorian calendar. It is, the ancient Egyptians used a 365-day solar year. The ancient Aztec used a 365-day solar year. They were aware of other cycles. That's okay. But 365 days makes sense. You're keeping in track with the seasons. Other calendar systems, if they're, too complicated, you have to catch up in all these weird ways. Okay, you have to reset time. You have to recalibrate your calendar to the seasons. Because if you have a holiday, if you're not tracking your holidays at least a little bit with the solar year, like Ramadan, for example, I believe. Wait, is that true? Is that Ramadan? Some Muslim holiday. It just cycles throughout the whole year. It can be in summer one year and winter, and then winter, 10 years later. It doesn't make much sense. They can drift outside of harmony. There's no harmony, no rhythm, right?
Yeah.
So
I think that is Ramadan, actually.
Mm-hmm. So where you want to start off with this? What
If you want to, this is Gregorian first. We can do Gregorian, Aztec, Egyptian, any of the 365s.
Mm-hmm.
But the Gregorian calendar, guys, is so beautiful. Like, you can see, Latin is so cool. We have up top, it says Calendarium Perpetuum, the perpetual calendar. And it's meant to be perfect. You adjust for the leap year. You adjust every 100 years to take a extra leap year in, I think. And you're chilling. And then just look at the top of this right here, right? We have Januarius, and then you can see just below the name of the month, you've got how many days are in each month. So 31 for January, 28 for February, et cetera, et cetera. That's very set and for good reason. And if you go back to our holiday episode last week, if you didn't see it, all of these months and days have significance with the holidays, which are all astrologically aligned. So this is a very astrologically aligned calendar. And you can tell that also just by looking up at the top. And you can see the different zodiac signs corresponding to the months. So what's interesting, though, about this, check this out. It has Libra over in October, and then it looks like they put Scorpio over in September on this one. But regardless, everything else lines up pretty well besides those two. But yeah, it's just a really cool calendar. It works, in my opinion, perfectly. And that's the full version of it.
Yeah. It also, it's a good time to highlight or call out people that are just allergic to certain institutions or certain names. Like, just because it says Pope Gregory on it, don't get allergic to that. Just because my favorite Bible says King James on it doesn't mean you have to go right? Like, let's say I don't know, bad analogy, but let's say I put all the most important information in the 21st century into a single book, and then I call it the Joe Biden manual for for astral travel or whatever. Are you gonna not read it because it says Joe Biden on the front? And that's a terrible comparison, but
No, that's great
whatever.
because this calendar, it was developed by the Jesuits. I'm not a big fan of the Jesuits, as are, many truthers aren't for various reasons, right? But I guess not everything they did was horrible. Not everything's a psyop.
Yeah, well, the Jesuits knew some stuff. I mean, one of their big tactics was syncretism.
Mhm.
Like Santos Bonacci hates the Jesuits, but he'll, some of the Jesuits were on point about astrotheology, but they would use it in different ways. For example, they'd roll up on a tribe and syncretize all their gods and deities and say, "Hey, these are our saints. You're already worshiping our saints. Just come on, sign up, guys." And they'd do a little more barking than that and sicking the dogs on people and cutting noses off and stuff like that. But yeah.
Yeah. And someone in the chat says true, but the psyoping does go deep. And that's true. I think like, especially right now, today, guys, everything going on in the news in the world, like we are literally in like a Russian nesting doll of psyops.
Mhm.
Like you figure out one thing and then like the next thing is like, oh, that was also a ploy. That person's also an actor, etc., etc. So the psyoping does go deep.
Yeah. So we got the Gregorian calendar. What is it, guys? It's a 365.25 day year. Now, I'm no expert on the Julian calendar, but I think the Julian calendar, which preceded the Gregorian, I believe it was just 365. So it was a little iffy on what to do with that 0.2 whatever at the end of the year. And I think they did a longer like rectification. They didn't do it every 4 years. I think it was like every 13 years or something. They would add on an extra. Let me look it up. Let's go look at the Julian.
Yeah, so the Julian calendar, what I've got, it's a 365 day divided into 12 months. It has a leap day on February 29th every 4 years, so it averages 365.25. However, the true value is allegedly 366.242. So, or I'm sorry, 365.242. So that's what it is. The Gregorian calendar adds extra leap years on certain centuries, and that was the issue that they had in the 1600 or the late
You're saying
1600s.
Julian or
Yes.
the Julian? You just
No,
said Gregorian.
no, that's it. The Gregorian calendar adds extra leap years every few centuries, whereas the Julian did not, and that's why after several centuries, like 600 years, the Julian was off by 10 days because it's missing that 0.078 of the day, essentially.
You're right. Yeah. You're right. So there was something wrong with the Julian calendar, and basically the Gregorian was tweaked, or Julian was tweaked slightly into the Gregorian. And that's where we get Gregorian. Basically, they were very close to something good. They were aware of the issues and they patched it up.
Yeah.
Now, also, it brings it closer into alignment with the tropical zodiac. So I like it. The seasons are fixed and you don't have to worry about drifting, slippage, whatever. Now here, let's move. What's the next slide we got here?
The Aztec calendar.
Aztec calendar. So the Aztec calendar is also 365 day. Let's see what the decimals are.
Do you want to put us off on the side? It's blocking a little bit of the picture, or it's good.
That's okay.
Okay.
It's kind of good. Yeah, go back to the last one real quick.
Sure.
Yeah, this shit's badass.
It is, dude. That's so cool.
When you pull her pants down and it looking back at you, and it's looking back at you like, just kidding. Just playing.
Yeah.
Joking, of course. Never did anything like that.
Of course. Not.
Aztec calendar used. Let me go look at this. used by the Aztecs as well as other pre-Columbian peoples of central Mexico. One of the Mesoamerican calendars, blah, blah, blah. So there's 2 cycles. They have a 365-day calendar, and then they have a 260-day ritual cycle. The 260-day was, I guess, is similar to what the Maya were using as their primary calendar. The Maya calendar, I think, was 260 days as well. Let me check that. And again, guys, there's only one solar year. So whether you're keeping track of it or not, like that's 365 days and a little bit of change. Whether your calendar just means whether you're writing it down on paper, more or less. Calendar means you're attempting to keep track of it, you know, whether in writing or notches or something, okay? Trying to track it. But this is truth that is, you don't have to be aware of this. Like it's true, you know, you're going to be planting with the seasons. Like you're going to be using the solar year, whether you like it or not. It's just whether you keep track of it and use it for your, you know, days, ceremonies, things like that. But okay. Yeah, Maya calendar was 260 days. They also used a 365 day, you know, aspect to their calendar. So
Yeah. And what's cool about the Aztec calendar is they had actually like a 360-day part, and then they had the 5 days they just treated as extra days outside of the calendar, as did the Egyptians, which we'll see next. But the 360-day calendar, guys, synced up every 52 years. They had a 52-year great cycle called the calendar round, which I think is going to be on that slide. Yeah, the calendar round. Every 52 years, they would sync up. And check this out, right? So if we do 365 times, what is it, 52? Divide that by 260, and that's a 73, right? So that's every 73 260 cycles it lines up. So it's like 73 cycles for the 260-day calendar, and then 52 cycles for the 365, and that lines up every 52 years. And just to note, you know, 73 is the 21st prime number. Something to think about there.
that's nice. Yeah, there's rhythm in the different calendars too. You know, they sync up. I guess you could call it like a polyrhythm, maybe too, if you're musically minded.
Yeah.
But so yeah, I don't know much about this whole 260-day thing. I'm not the guy to ask. But 365 is essentially, you know, more or less the zodiac, tropical zodiac, sticking to the seasons. So what are we showing here? What's the point of all this? Well, 365 is not just some random thing. It's not, Pope Gregory didn't just come up with it to deceive us all, okay? The only deception that you could really argue here is a lack of awareness of any of the other cycles, you know? Yeah, the sun's obvious in its influence. The seasons are obvious, you know? Not knowing your astrology, though. Not knowing, you know, the moon phases, right? Not knowing how to keep track of other stuff. You don't want to be astrologically illiterate. You don't want to be, yeah. You don't want to be on the hobo calendar. Oh, what season is it? Oh, it's hot today, you know? Not really keeping track of anything.
Mm-hmm.
So 365 days, we're not going to spend too much time on it, but rooted in tradition, rooted in ancient tradition. I never met an Aztec, at least, you know, not one of the old ones. I've met some of the new ones. Bumped into one at the, bumped into an old Aztec priest at the quick stop on the corner, actually. But Aztec, Egyptian, I'm sure there's some other big ones out there in ancient times. 365-day year. So we're not just out here on our own, just getting psyoped by the Pope. Okay. Don't get too allergic. Don't have an allergic reaction just to the name or, some institution attached to it. But be grateful for what we do have. I'm grateful for what we do have. All right. 365-day year. We can kind of skip past that unless you got anything else to say.
Sure. Do you want to talk about the I pulled up the etymology of the word calendar. Want to check that real quick or nah?
Sure.
So it's just pretty cool. So calendar, it just goes back to the 1200s. It says the year as divided systematically into days and months. Table showing divisions of the year. A list or a register. There's a truther word, register, regis. Account book. But then it gets cool, right? We have the calends, the first day of the Roman month when debts fell due and accounts were reckoned. And then it goes back to calare, to announce solemnly, to call out. So the Gregorian calendar is great at that. It literally announces the zodiac signs. Everyone's like, oh, why October? Well, it announces that it's the and guys, the word ember goes to fire. So the embers, guys, are the months of the fall when the sun is an ember, guys. So it's the 7th ember, the 9th ember, the 10th ember. And if you understand that, it's the fires in the sky. So that's pretty cool. I
like that.
Little etymology there. Okay, if we skip the Egyptian, then it goes to 13. Then we have the turtle shell next up. If you want to get into that,
let's look at the Egyptian a little bit.
Sure,
so people can see it. Hell yeah! All right, next one.
All right, I have no idea what this is.
Sick.
I can't make heads or tails of it.
Yeah, but I imagine that's what the Egyptian calendar looks like.
Yep.
Okay. So moving on, there's the solar calendar and Gregorian calendar. We just talked about it a little bit. Now let's talk about what everyone thinks is like the ultimate replacement. Like, oh, we need to get this back. The lunar turtle calendar is what they took from us.
Mm-hmm.
They put us on the Gregorian calendar. They took our turtles. They took our trilobites. You were just out here, not, we can't tell any time for ourselves without our little turtle shell calendar. So many people complain about this, and they offer this as if it's some solution. It's not. Anyone who shares this, I hate to rip on it so much. Anyone who shares this is like showing you, and I've been guilty of it. Because we've all parroted stuff just because,
Sounds good.
If anyone's pumping this out, they're showing you they haven't looked into it at all. At all. Because you look into it a tiny bit and you realize, number one, the turtle shell's not a lunar calendar. Okay? And how you're good at articulating this. 13 moon is actually not the exception, but the minority, right? There's more often 12 moons in a year. 13 moons in a year is the exception, or the minority, basically.
Yeah, it's known as a blue moon, which is a rare thing. Once in the blue moon, that's the 13th moon. It's a rarity, not the norm at all.
Right. So 13 month, okay, maybe, something you could divide anything up into 13 pieces if you want. Now 13 times 28 is 364. We'll give them that. At least they got the math right. But 364 is not a lunar calendar. Has nothing to do with the moon. Nothing. It's not even a lunisolar calendar. 364 we'll get to, because it's really important. I don't mean to dog it. It's very important. It's divine, according to the Bible, 364. But here's what I love. All these people who talk about the 364-day year, they never talk about the Bible. They never talk about Enoch or Jubilee, okay? The book of Jubilees, the book of Enoch. They never talk about the 7-day week in the 7 days of creation, because that's what it's really all about, is the 364-day year glorifies the 7 days of creation. That's why the 364-day calendar is important. A lunar calendar is 350. And I'm sorry, it's hard not to be condescending and smug when you're trying to combat the condescending and smug people, but so forgive me. A lunar calendar is 354 days. 5-4, not 6-4, 5-4. So lunar calendar, a real pure true lunar calendar is 354. And even that, guys, it's using 12 months. It's using 12 lunar months. So a real lunar calendar doesn't use 13, at least not the way people say it does in this this I call it a meme. I don't even know what this is. This little infographic that people pass around like herpes. Okay, like
gosh.
AIDS. This shit spreads like fucking. Okay, man, you think crabs are bad? Wait till you get the turtle infographic. Okay. Yeah. You'll nothing. Go ahead.
No, it's important too. Like, it's okay to be a little bit not condescending, but like, we're correct. You know what I mean? Like, this is not an accurate calendar. It's not a lunar calendar. We're not bullshitting. We've already been. Longo and I both used to believe this. Like, we used to be like, oh yeah, the 13-month calendar. I thought it for a little bit until I looked into it, and as did Longo. So it's like, we've been there, we've seen it, and like, it's again, not to be like, oh, we're such superior truthers, but like, we're just trying to help out a little bit, and it's important to be emphatic when we do that.
It's a flagrant mistake that people just don't put any effort into correcting. They'd rather whine about something that's good and operational and provide a dead, sterile, inoperational solution as if it's a solution. But okay. So number one, 13 moons, 28 days. Yes, that's 364. But that has no basis in astronomy whatsoever. 364-day year has no basis in astronomy whatsoever. So sun, moon, stars, nothing. It's a purely 7-day week based system. And the math is nice and round, 13 times 28 is 364. But that's not the moon. It has nothing to do with the moon. It has nothing to do with the sun either, really. Unless you're adding an extra day on, a dead day at the end, which some calendars did, to go from 364 to 365. But 364, what is it? Well, it's actually the Enochian calendar. But here, since we're on the turtle, let's add one more thing to this. Okay, we already listed two things that are just wrong, big misconceptions. The big one, the last one, is this. If you actually get a turtle shell in front of you, not a little infographic where they literally, made it in whatever program they made the graphic with, where they themselves are numbering, where they themselves. People trying to get in. If you, what were we talking about?
The lunar calendar.
The scoots. Okay.
Yes.
The little patches on a turtle shell. We haven't even really broken down what people think. Okay. There's 13 big patches in the middle of a turtle shell. There's 28, allegedly, according to these graphics. There's supposed to be, people are expecting there to be 28 scoots on the rim of the turtle shell. Well, guys, no one who passes this around has ever picked up a turtle shell and checked this for themselves, because most turtle shells do not have 28 scoots. That's a rare, not an anomaly, but only certain species do that regularly. And in other species, it's extremely rare. It's like a mutation, and sometimes they're poking out in like a weird fashion. The vast majority of turtles do have 13 larger scutes in the middle. That's true. Okay. No. I just saw the word ophiuchus. Okay, I'm gonna blow.
Oh no.
I'm gonna blow a fuse over here. Okay, if I see ophiuchus being talked about,
I think they're just
ophiuchus,
memeing about it.
ophiuchus is so fake and gay and made up. Don't worry about it. Don't use it. Okay, you're a Sagittarius or whatever. You know. Turtle shell. There's not actually 28 scutes on the rim of most turtle shells. Most only have 24. That's pretty substantial. That's not like one off, okay? That's 4 off. Most have 12 scutes on either side. And then there's kind of one big one in the middle and one big one down at the bottom, or one at the top, one at the bottom. And those ones in some turtles are split up in ways that you can count them as 28. You know, 2 at the bottom, 2 at the top, 12 on the side. But not all turtles look like that. In fact, the majority don't. The majority only have 24 countable scutes, meaning the patches themselves. Now, I've asked some Native Americans, and they told me you count the margins, you count the cusps, and that gets you closer to 28 instead of counting the patches themselves. But even then, you're kind of, you're kind of stretching it to make it work, And there's also a theory that there's 12 notches, and you can count, or 12 patches, you could count 13 notches in between. And then when you get to can we zoom in on that picture? Can we zoom in on the turtle part, or just are there any more turtle pictures?
There's that. That's the last one I got. It's just those 3.
Okay, well, here, we'll stop on this one for a second.
Yeah.
At the top, actually go to the real turtle shell. Yeah. So at the bottom, it kind of looks like 2 scutes there.
Mm-hmm.
And then at the top, you'd see there's 2 scutes, and they're different than all the other ones on the rim. The one at the very top is thicker, and the one at the very bottom is thicker. Now, you can count those as 13 steps, and then 2 more, roughly 2 days of new moon, 2.5 of new moon, and then you start counting again. So you don't count during the new moon or the full moon. That's how some people explained how you actually get to 28. Basically you're starting out at like 1 a.m. on the clock, and you're starting out with 1 scute, your first margin or your first cusp. Then you count. When you get to the bottom, you'll get to 13 at most, right? Then you wait 2 days, roughly. Then you count 13 more. Now you're at, how does that work? No, you go 12 plus 2, then 12 plus 2 more. So you count 12, and they're easy to count 12. That's easy. Count 12 scutes, get to the bottom, and wait 2.5 days, or 2 days. Then you count 12 more on the other side. You get to the top and wait 2 days. You don't count for 2 days, essentially. That's how some people get the turtle shell, and almost every turtle shell can do that for you. Because this is something I want to talk about too, is I think people are misusing the turtle shell. I think the turtle shell has many systems built into it. I do think the turtle shell is divine. What we're making fun of is it's not a lunar calendar. It's not even remotely a lunar calendar. What you can work into it is a moon phase tracker, and you can count. People don't talk about this. You could count 24 hours with the turtle shell. You can count 24 hours. There's 24 actual big scoots on the rim. So I think you can use it for a lot of things. It's like a clock too. It's not just a calendar, it's a clock. But what's next? What did we put next here? The lunar calendar or
Yeah, the lunar calendar.
okay. So people think that the lunar calendar is 364, or they think the turtle shell is a lunar calendar. False, false, false. As we already said, it's 354 days is a lunar calendar. So that's 10 less, 10 missing. So turtle shell is not going to help you with that. You got to use the moon. Okay, let's skip ahead a little.
Sure.
Lunar calendar, you want to talk about the phases and
Yeah, this is
moons?
just so cool. I mean, and this isn't even like an accurate lunar calendar. People are so separated from what a lunar calendar actually is, because what a lunar calendar is it's a month that begins on the new moon. So what's cool and useful about a lunar calendar, the utility, is that if it's the 15th of the month, well, then you know you're near the full moon on a lunar calendar. So that's what a lunar calendar is, right? And like the lunar calendar or the lunar cycles, guys, are like week-long cycles, right? You have a week from a new moon to a half moon waning, and then you have your full moon a week later, a fortnight, if you will. From the new moon, you got a full moon, and then a fortnight after that, it's back to the next new moon after the waxing cycle. But this calendar, but this picture on the screen is cool, guys, because you can see how the full moon will slip a little bit. Like you'll have your full moon on like the 14th of January, and then the next one, the 12th or 13th of February, and then it like slowly goes back every couple days, because that's how it lines up. And like this little band right here shows that. And that is cool, like tracking the moon, super useful. It's a very beautiful, celestial object. But so that's what the lunar calendar is actually meant to be. It's meant to start on the new moon.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and 354 days is used in the Bible, or maybe not necessarily in the Bible, but by the Israelites. Okay. The Israelites at times used a 354-day calendar, and the current Hebrew calendar is 354-day lunisolar, which means it's a lunar calendar most of the time, but then it resets. It adds extra months. What is it? 7 out of 19, I think, or 4 out of 19. Every
Yes.
4, something like that. They add an extra month, and that will give them a longer month or a longer year, much longer than 354 days. But most years are 354 days. And it's basically rectified in a 19-year cycle. Because they need to keep it from drifting too far from the solar year. See, and that's the thing is, does anyone recalibrate the solar year to line up with their made up, years? No, it's always the other way around. Okay. You're always going to have to recenter to the solar year, because that's what the crops don't lie. Okay. When it starts snowing, it's not lying. You're not out of sync. You're right where you should be. The seasons announce themselves, right? That's like I said, the hobo calendar is wake up on the bench, don't know what fucking day it is, but it's cold out. Okay. It's winter, it's hot out, summer. You don't want to be that level of calendar illiteracy, right? But at the same time, it's the obvious truth. So things are always going to recalibrate to the solar year, not the lunar. So one more slide, please.
Sure. Yeah, the sun is the emperor in the sky. Just is what it is. It's the most important celestial body. Mm-hmm. Do you want to go into Noah's Ark a little bit?
Totally. So guys, I went balls deep on the calendar a couple of weeks ago, because I'm working on some Noah's Ark research for an upcoming project. And I was trying to figure out, because, Noah's Ark was built out of gopher wood, Noah's Ark was built out of gopher wood. In the Bible, it says that. In the Hebrew Bible and the English Bible, it says gopher. Almost every Bible. But gopher wood's never been identified, ever, except in Florida. We know what it is, but they won't tell you about it. Okay, it's never been identified, and wherever Noah landed, it apparently wasn't growing there because they just never knew what it was. So it seems where Noah departed from, it was in abundance. Everyone knew what it was. When they land, never brought up again, never mentioned again. So you go check out my videos on gopher wood and Noah's Ark if you want to learn more about that. But something came up when I was trying to figure out what is gopher wood, like in English, spelled with a G, gopher, have to do with gopher animals, the gopher tortoise, the gopher pocket gopher, the gopher beetle. There's all these animals that are called gopher in Florida. Chiefest among them is the gopher tortoise. Gopher tortoise is in some ways emblematic of the Southeast United States. It's endemic to the Southeast United States. It is, I believe, the only tortoise found east of the Mississippi. I think it's the only tortoise in Florida. And they're extremely cool. So there's some parallels I found, okay, right off the bat. Noah's Ark was there to protect all these animals from a deluge, from a natural disaster almost. Gopher tortoises, what are they known for? They build deep, big burrows. And these burrows are not just for them to live in. These burrows are for hundreds and hundreds of species to live in, not just by themselves, not just abandoned, many times at the same time. You'll have rattlesnake, rat, rabbit, tortoise, fox will come in. And when they're in the gopher tortoise den, they exhibit a phenomenal degree of friendship. Animals rarely prey on each other in gopher tortoise dens. Look it up. Okay? The gopher tortoise dens have almost like a pacifying effect. It's like when you're fighting with your siblings, but you go home for dinner at mom's house and everything, just leave it outside, leave the trouble at the front door. You're back at mom's house, or it's storming outside and in Florida, there's a hurricane coming and you're on bad terms with your family. But the hurricane's here, you got to fucking stuff everyone inside, in the safe room. And, the emergency dictates that you got to get along, right? And that's another part of it is most of the times when all these animals are stuffing themselves into a gopher tortoise den, dozens at a time, it's during a fire. Sometimes a flood, right? Usually fire. So that's a big, big link between gopher tortoises, who are probably the only species in America that does that to that degree, providing shelter for other animals, harboring, and then Noah's Ark, who's protecting all these animals. But I kept searching. Gopher tortoise. Remember we were saying the turtle shell calendar? Well, it applies to sea turtles. It applies to snapping turtles. It applies to soft shell turtles, leatherback turtles. It applies to many, many different types of turtles. Tortoises too. Tortoises. Now, tortoise shells sometimes are easier to read than turtle shells. The gopher tortoise shell is pretty easy to read. And the gopher tortoise is one of those turtles or tortoise species that often has 364 28 scoots. It's super rare, but it does happen in gopher tortoises. Now, I'm not going to say I've had a picture of perfect 28 scoots, but I've seen online and I've been told that it happens. Yeah, that's a gopher tortoise shell. That one's particularly nice. I don't know if that's really a gopher tortoise shell. Yeah, it's what they usually look like that, pretty flat.
That's pretty cool.
So gopher tortoises protect other animals, especially through emergencies. And, how did all those animals get along in Noah's Ark? Did God pacify them? Was there some similar effect? Think about it. But then I started thinking about the shell and the calendar on the back of the gopher tortoise shell. And it occurred to me that Noah was in the ark for roughly a year. That's established fact. We just don't know what size year. But there's some clues. There's some clues. The way that it's worded when Noah gets off the ark. Could you bring this up? Could you bring up Genesis chapter 8, King James Version, please?
Done.
Yeah. So, okay. And the ark rested. Keep going down. Keep going down. Keep going down a little bit. Okay. Right there, verse 13. Can you zoom in on verse 13, please?
Yep.
So, verse 13. And it came to pass in the 601st year, in the first month, the first day of the month, the waters were dried up from off the earth, and Noah removed the covering of the ark and looked, and behold, the face of the ground was dry. Oh shit, hang on, sorry.
Is there a keyword you're looking for?
No, just keep going down a little bit.
Sure.
Okay, so yeah, I guess it's just that it's that time frame right there. I guess I thought it said Noah gets out of the ark, but it says in 601st year, first month, and first day of the month. Basically, Noah got in the ark on a certain day of the year, and then got out of the ark 10 or 11 days later. Does that make sense?
Mhm.
So Noah spent a full year plus 11 days. 10 or 11, depending on depending on how you think the months were sized. And that brings us to a big debate and a big discussion and a huge part of the book of Enoch that no one talks about. Because remember, the book of Enoch revisits some of this same material pertaining to Noah getting in the ark and why was the earth flooded? How long is Noah spending in the ark? I think God was teaching Noah a lesson in time, too. He was teaching all of the surviving humanity a lesson in timekeeping. I think that the time spent in the ark was God reminding Noah what the perfect year should be. Hear me out on this. Throughout the Bible, and as we said, the lunisolar year is 354 days, right? 364 is that plus 10. 354 plus 10. 365 days is the 354 day plus 11, right?
Correct.
Okay, now watch this. Noah got in the ark on one day of the year. And we know because of his age that's given, we know that he aged 1 year and 11 days, pretty much 10 days or 11 days. So let's say like right now it's December. Let's say today it's December 17th, or last year it was December 17th, and I got in the ark and I just got out today, or I'm going to get out tomorrow. That's a whole year plus 10 or 11 days, right? Okay. But what year was Noah using? Well, there's some clues. If it was even months, and it's kind of implied, people have assumed that they're evenly spaced months. Okay. That would put us at a 360-day year. Now, that's what most people assume when they're reading this, but they can't explain where they get a 360-day year because there's no instructions to use one yet thus far in the Bible. And 360 days is not rooted in astronomy either, nor does it glorify the 7-day week. Okay. So, but for some reason, just look, you keep that up on screen. I'm
Sure.
going to search this real quick. What calendar was Noah using? Okay, watch. We're going to switch over to my screen. I know this is AI, but you guys can go check this for yourself. It's so dumb, it's not even funny. It's like the other misconceptions that we were talking about earlier. AI overview. Let me put us out of the way here. Noah likely used a lunar-based calendar similar to the Hebrew calendar with months based on moon cycles, blah, 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 suggesting a variation or adjustment where some months were fixed at 30 days for simplicity or due to weather preventing moon sightings. Right? Oh, we couldn't see the moon this month. Let's just change the whole structure of the calendar. Creating a 360-day solar adjusted year during the flood period, a system. So they're saying because Noah couldn't really look out and see, the sun or the moon, right? So what's he counting? 360 what? They don't really explain it too well, but for some reason, that's like the consensus is Noah was using a 360-day year. And that's implied because when it says plus 10 days or 11 days, people assume it's implying perfect 30-day month. But I'm gonna tell you what I think, and you tell me what you think. All evidence points to in the Bible them using either a 354 lunisolar calendar or a 364-day calendar or a solar calendar. If we're going off of Genesis, it seems signs and seasons is what we're supposed to be keeping time with. The sun, moon, sun rules the day, moon rules the night, and then the signs and the seasons. Well, there's no biblical instructions on a 360-day calendar. I don't know why people say this about Noah, but if we're using 354, if that was in practice before Noah gets on the ark, then God might have been trying to teach him a lesson by making him stay 10 or 11 extra days on the ark. Does that make sense? And we're going to see why God doesn't like the 354-day calendar or any of the other calendars. It seems the angels and God prefer the 364-day calendar. We're going to read from the book of Enoch and the book of Jubilees here in a sec. But yeah, 360. It's a thing. People say that's what Noah was using, but it's not true. Now, what if it was a 354-day year and Noah spends one whole 354-day year? So now, keeping track of his age, he's now one whole year older, but then we have to wait either 10 or 11 more days. How does that work? Well, that would get us from 354 to 364 or 365, which means God is taking the year Noah was using and forcing him to recalibrate it, maybe because he can't even see the sun and the moon. And when he gets out, he'll be starting anew. What do you think?
That makes perfect sense. And like a lunar-based calendar is 354 days. So it makes perfect sense,
Mhm.
And then 10 or 11 is great. Just going to the, again, I brought this up a few episodes ago with the rule of Colel. which means if you're just off by one numerologically, that's okay. So yeah, 3, that makes perfect sense. That's actually really cool. I've never heard that before.
Yeah, so let's go back to the verse. Here, you can do the math for yourself, and it all comes down to how you size the months. Do you let them be some less than 30 days or some more than 30 days? But most people say that Noah was in the ark for 370 days. How long was Noah in the ark? Most people say 370 days. That's like the general consensus. Maybe, but it sounds just arbitrary to go from 360 to 370 or 371. Isn't it nice and perfect to go from 354 to 364 or 365? God's
Yeah.
upgrading the Bible. Now, why would he want to do that? Well, let's go read from the book of Enoch. Okay. The book of Enoch, like I said, it revisits some of this material, you know, some of the conditions, the reasons why the Noah's flood happened in the first place. So let me show you guys my screen. We're going to read from the book of Enoch. Dun, 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 dun.
Real quick, someone in chat asked, where is a 354 calendar day used? That's just 12 transits of, that's 12 new moons. That's all it is. 12 synodic cycles of the moon. That's the 354. So now you know.
Mm-hmm. Yep. And that is the Hebrew calendar, the modern Hebrew calendar. Now, doesn't matter. All right. Let's go through the book of Enoch.
Yes.
Book 3 or section 3 is the one on like astronomy and some of that stuff. Oh shit, this is pretty dense. We can do that. Hang on. There we go. That's better.
Nice.
Don't worry,
Yeah,
we're not gonna read the whole thing.
The book of Enoch is huge, man. It's a big book.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah, we can read these. Okay, so he's going to talk about the month. That's not too much reading. All right. Let's try and get through this. Throw on a little music, guys. Make sure you spark up. Pour yourself a little liquid sunshine. Get nice and loose. 1 sec. Throw a little music on up in here.
Got some narration by the great Dr. Narco Longo coming at you right now.
Hang on. Okay. Ready to go?
Yes, sir.
Okay. I'll read for a little and then you can take over.
Sure.
We're on chapter 72. Let me know how the music sounds too. Give us a thumbs up if it sounds good. Let us know if the levels are all bad. So chapter 72, the book of Enoch, section 3. The book of the courses of the luminaries of the heaven. The relations of each according to their classes, their dominion, and their seasons, according to their names and places of origin, and according to their months, which Uriel, the holy angel who is with me, who is their guide, showed me. And he showed to all the years of the world and unto eternity, till the new creation is accomplished. which dureth till eternity. And this is the first law of the luminaries. The luminary, the sun, has its rising in the eastern portals of the heaven, and its setting in the western portals of the heaven. And I saw 6 portals in which the sun rises, and 6 portals in which the sun sets, and the moon rises and sets in these portals. And the leaders of the stars, and those whom they lead, 6 in the east and 6 in the west, and all following each other in accurately corresponding order. Also many windows to the right and left of these portals. And first there goes forth the great luminary named the sun, and his circumference is like the circumference of the heaven, and he is quite filled with illuminating and heating fire. The chariot on which he ascends, the wind drives, and the sun goes down from the heaven, and returns through the north in order to reach the east, and is so guided that he comes to the appropriate portal, and shines in the face of the heaven. In this way he rises in the first month, in the great portal, which is the 4th, those 6 portals in the cast. And in that 4th portal, from which the sun rises, in the first month are 12 window openings, from which proceed a flame when they are opened in their season. When the sun rises in heaven, he comes forth through that 4th portal 30 mornings in succession, and sets accurately in the 4th portal in the west of the heaven. And during this period the day becomes daily longer, and the night nightly shorter, to the 30th morning. On that day the day is longer than the night by a 9th part, and the day amounts exactly to 10 parts, and the night to 8 parts. And the sun rises from that 4th portal, and sets in the 4th, and returns to the 5th portal of the east 30 mornings, and rises from it and sets in the 5th portal. And then the day becomes longer by 2 parts, and amounts to 11 parts, and the night becomes shorter and amounts to 7 parts. And it returns to the east and enters into the 6th portal, and rises and sets in the 6th portal 1 mornings on account of its sign. On that day the day becomes longer than the night, and the day becomes double the night, and the day becomes 12 parts, and the night is shortened and becomes 6 parts. And the sun mounts up to make the day shorter and the night longer. And the sun returns to the east, and enters into the 6th portal, and rises from it and sets 30 mornings. And when 30 mornings are accomplished, the day decreases by exactly 1 part, and becomes 11 parts, and the night 7. And the sun goes forth from that 6th portal in the west, and goes to the east, and rises in the 5th portal for 30 mornings, and sets in the west again in the 5th western portal. On that day the day decreases by 2 parts, and amounts to 10 parts, and the night to 8 parts. And the sun goes forth from that 5th portal, and sets in the 5th portal of the west, and rises in the 4th portal for 1 mornings, on account of its sign, and sets in the west. On that day the day is equalized with the night, and becomes of equal length, and the night amounts to 9 parts, and the day to 9 parts. And the sun rises from that portal and sets in the west, and returns to the east, and rises 30 mornings in the 3rd portal, and sets in the west in the 3rd portal. And on that day the night becomes longer than the day, and night becomes longer than night. And night becomes longer than night, and day shorter than day, till the 30th morning. And the night amounts exactly to 10 parts, and the day to 8 parts. And the sun rises from that 3rd portal, and sets in the 3rd portal in the west, and returns to the east. And for 30 mornings rises in the 2nd portal in the east, and in like manner in the second portal in the west of the heaven. And on that day the night amounts to 11 parts, and the day to 7 parts. And the sun rises on that day from the second portal, and sets in the west in the second portal, and returns to the east in the first portal for 31 mornings, and sets in the first portal in the west of the heaven. And on that day the night becomes longer, and amounts to the double of the day. And the night amounts exactly to 12 parts, and the day to 6. And the sun has therewith traversed the divisions of his orbit, and turns again on those divisions of his orbit, and enters that portal 30 mornings, and sets also in the west opposite to it. And on that night has the night decreased in length by a 9th part, and the night has become 11 parts, and the day 7 parts. And the sun has returned and entered into the second portal in the east, and returns on those his divisions of his orbit for 30 mornings, rising and setting. And on the day the night it decreases in length, and the night and on that day the night decreases in length, and the night amounts to 10 parts, and the day to 8. And on that day the sun rises from that portal, and sets in the west, and returns to the east, and rises in the third portal for 31 mornings, and sets in the west of the heaven. On that day the night decreases and amounts to 9 parts, and the day to 9 parts. And the night is equal to the day, and the year is exactly as to its days 364. And the length of the day, and of the night, and the shortness of the day, and of the night, arise through the course of the sun. These distinctions are made. So it comes that its course becomes daily longer, and its course nightly shorter. And this is the law and the course of the sun. And his return, as often as he returns 60 times and rises, the great luminary which is named the sun, forever and ever. And that which thus rises is the great luminary, and is so named according to its appearance, according as the Lord commanded. As he rises, so he sets and decreases not, and rests not, but runs day and night, and his light is 7-fold brighter than that of the moon. But as regards size, they are both equal. Uh-oh. You hear that, NASA? Equal size.
No, they just look like they're exactly the same size. That's just an illusion, dude. That's just an illusion. You know, the moon changes colors, but that's just an illusion, too.
Right. So here, can I send you the link on this?
Yeah, sure. Put it in the private chat if you can.
Oh, perfect. Yeah. Smart idea.
I have a couple. Oh, that was a StreamYard link.
Oh, fuck.
It's all good.
Yeah. See if you can read, if you can pull this up on your screen and read.
Yeah, sure.
I gotta go buy another water across the street.
All right. We're on section 3, chapter 73.
Yeah.
All right. I'm going to scroll down. It's not hyperlinking. But yeah, put my screen up. I'll take care of it.
You gotta command zoom.
Oh, yeah, I will. But look at this, guys. Look at 73. It's so much shorter than 72, guys. Have a good time with 73 right now. Go enjoy your water, bro. I'll get this rolling here.
You can read the next two.
I'll dramatize it. All right. So chapter 73 of the Book of Enoch, part 3. More? All right.
Yeah,
more.
So people can see. Yeah, that's good. That's good.
That's good.
Yeah.
All right. And after this, I saw another law dealing with the smaller luminary, which is named the moon. And her circumference is like the circumference of the heaven, and her chariot in which she rides is driven by the wind. And light is given to her in definite measure. And her rising and setting change every month. Very true, the moon is chaotic. And her days are like the days of the sun. And when her light is uniform, full, it amounts to the 7th part of the light of the sun. So a full moon gives off as much illumination as 1/7 of the sun. Very interesting. And thus she rises. And her first phrase in the east comes forth on the 30th morning, and on that day she becomes visible, and constitutes for you the first phase of the moon on the 30th day together with the sun in the portal where the sun rises. And guys, the word portal, in this context, it literally means zodiacal sign. So there are 12 portals, 12 zodiacal signs. That's what the word portal means in the context of the Book of Enoch. And 1/2 of her goes forth by a 7th part, and her whole circumference is empty, without light, with the exception of 1/7 part of it, and the 40th part of it, and the 14th part of her light. And when she receives 1/7 part of the half of her light, and her light amounts to 1/7 part and half thereof, and she sets with the sun, and when the sun rises, the moon rises with him, and receives the half of 1 part of light. And in that night, in the beginning of her morning, in the commencement of the lunar day, the moon sets with the sun, and is invisible on that night with the 14 parts and the half of 1 of them. And she rises on that day with exactly a 7th part, and comes forth and recedes from the rising of the sun, and in her remaining days she becomes bright in the remaining 13 parts. So that just seems like a really complex way to describe the lunar cycle, guys, but what that essentially described to me, let me know if I'm wrong in the chat, that described, the moon going from new moon to half moon to full moon to half moon to new moon again. But again, it's a very archaic and old way of saying it, but also accurate. What I get value from that, though, is the moon giving 1/7 the illumination of the sun when she's full is actually sick, if true. All right, chapter 74. And I saw another course, a law for her, and how according to that law she performs her monthly revolution. And all these Uriel, the holy angel who is the leader of them all, showed to me, and their positions. And I wrote down their positions as she showed them to me. And I wrote down their months as they were, and the appearance of their lights till 15 days were accomplished. In single 7th parts, she accomplishes all her light in the east, and in single 7th parts, she accomplishes all her darkness in the west. And in certain months, she alters her settings, and in certain months, she pursues her own peculiar course. And in 2 months, the moon sets with the sun. In those 2 middle portals, the 3rd and 4th, she goes forth for 7 days, and turns about and returns again through the portal where the sun rises, and accomplishes all her light. And she recedes from the sun, and in 8 days enters the 6th portal from which the sun goes forth. And when the sun goes forth from the 4th portal, she goes forth 7 days until she goes forth from the 5th and turns back again in 7 days into the 4th portal, and accomplishes all her light, meaning a full moon. And she recedes and enters into the 1st portal again in 8 days. And she returns again in 7 days into the 4th portal from which the sun goes forth. Thus I saw their position, how the moons rose and the sun set in those days. And if 5 years are added together, the sun has an overplus of 30 days. And all the days which accrue to it for one of those 5 years when they are full amount to 364 days. Hold on. My small brain, I want to figure what this means. There's something here. If 5 years are added together, the sun has an overplus of 30 days. And all the days which accrue to it for one of those 5 years when they are full amount to 364 days. 5 years are added together. The sun has an overplus of 30 days. What, have you been listening, Longo? What can you make of this? And all the days which accrue to it for one of those 5 years, when they are full, amount to 364 days. It seems like it's showing the offset of the lunar cycle to the solar cycle as the sun goes through its year.
Mm-hmm. Or the 364 day year with the solar year, you know. After 5 years, would there be, I guess it'd only be, what, 5 days between, if it's 5 years. See, this is going over my head a little bit, I'll be honest. You know, this is why they took the Book of Enoch out, guys. Because it's like, you know,
it's tough. It's a tough read, you know. It's dense, portals. It's like it's got you know, math written out, you know, alphabetically. That's something. But okay, I'll keep rocking it a bit. But there's something there, guys. And the overplus of the sun and of the stars amounts to 6 days. In 5 years, 6 days every year come to 30 days. Hold on. And the overplus of the sun and of the stars amounts to 6 days. In 5 years, 6 days every year. That makes sense. And the moon falls behind the sun and stars to the number of 30 days. And the sun and the stars bring in all the years exactly, so that they do not advance or delay their position by a single day unto eternity. Very true. The sun, steady. The stars, steady. Steady in different ways, but both very steady. But complete the years with perfect justice in 364 days. In 3 years, there are 1,092 days, and in 5 years, 1,820 days. So that in 8 years, there are 2,912 days. For the moon alone, the days amount in 3 years to 1,062 days. And in 5 years, she falls 50 days behind. And in 5 years, there are 1,770 days. So that for the moon, the days in 8 years amount to 21,832 days. For in 8 years, she falls behind to the amount of 80 days. All the days she falls behind in 8 years are 80. And the year is accurately completed in conformity with their world stations and the stations of the sun, which rise from the portals through which it, the sun, rises and sets 30 days.
Mm-hmm. Oh, yeah.
Keep
Here,
rocking.
keyword and... Oh, yeah, you want to read... No, that's good. Yeah, that was good. That's all we need to read from Enoch. Let's read from Jubilees a little bit. Give me 1 second to pull that up. Okay, we're in the Book of Jubilees, chapter 6. Okay, and this is interesting because we're revisiting the Noah's Ark story a little bit here. Yeah, that's easy to read. Okay, Book of Jubilees, chapter 6. And on the new moon of the 3rd month, he went... I'm going to turn the music off. Maybe do this one.
Oh, that's much better. That's good shit right there.
I like that one better. All right. Let's hit it. And on the new moon of the 3rd month, he went forth from the ark and built an altar on that mountain. Interesting. Here, wait 1 sec. Okay, yeah. So this is crazy, okay? And this kind of like... I don't know if this validates what I was saying before. I didn't double check, but... Chapter 6. And on the new moon of the 3rd month, he, Noah, went forth from the ark and built an altar on that mountain. This is Noah getting off the ark. revisiting of the story. And he made atonement for the earth, and took a kid, and made atonement by its blood for all the guilt of the earth. Kid means, a young goat. For everything that had been on it had been destroyed, save those that were in the ark with Noah. And he placed the fat thereof on the altar. And he took an ox, and a goat, and a sheep, and kids, and salt, and a turtle dove, and the young of a dove, and placed a burnt sacrifice on the altar, and poured thereon an offering mingled with oil, and sprinkled wine, and strewed frankincense over everything, and caused a goodly savor to arise, acceptable before the Lord. And the Lord smelt the goodly savor, and he made a covenant with him, that there should not be any more a flood to destroy the earth, that all the days of the earth, seed time and harvest, should never cease. Cold and heat, and summer and winter, and day and night, should not change their order, nor cease forever. Suck a fat dick, Bill Nye, Carl Sagan, Neil deGrasse Tyson, forever. Okay, and this is not going to end when the sun goes out. It's going to end if God wants it to end. Okay?
100%.
You're not going to put a little stopwatch or countdown to the end of time and the end of the world. No, get the fuck out of here with that. That's such Jesuit, PSYOP, Illuminati, Rockefeller, Herpagana syphilades, okay? You don't want any of that. The Bible tells us, well, this isn't the Bible, but, the Book of Jubilees, it's significant.
Dude, you hear they're saying that the star Betelgeuse is exploding right now? And
No.
the star Betelgeuse is dying, allegedly. We just won't see it
Whoa.
in our lifetimes, of course, but, it's dying, of course.
Dude, I had a friend who told me, I was like, what do you think of my new jacket? And he was like, bro, you look like Beetlejuice. I was like, fuck. Like, totally right. totally right. Kind of the referee jacket. But okay. Let's keep reading here. Forever. Keyword forever. Verse 5. And you increase ye and multiply upon the earth, and become many upon it, and be a blessing upon it. The fear of you and the dread of you I will inspire in everything that is on earth and in the sea. And behold, I have given unto you all beasts and all winged things and everything that moves on the earth. You know what? We can actually skip across. We can skip across some of this. We'll say this real quick. And Noah and his sons swore that they would not eat any blood that was in any flesh. And he made a covenant before the Lord God forever throughout all the generations of the earth in this month. Okay, hang on. Okay. He set his bow in the cloud for a sign of the eternal covenant, that there should not again be a flood on the earth to destroy it all the days of the earth. For this reason it is ordained and written on the heavenly tablets, that they should celebrate the Feast of Weeks in this month once a year, to renew the covenant every year. And this whole festival was celebrated in heaven from the day of creation till the days of Noah, 26 jubilees and 5 weeks of years, or 1309 to 1659 AM. What does that mean? Anima Mundi, in the year of our world, maybe? I forget. And Noah and his sons observed it for 7 jubilees and 1 week of years, till the day of Noah's death. And from the day of Noah's death, his sons did away with. And from the day of Noah's death, his sons did away with it until the days of Abraham, and they eat blood. Oof. But Abraham observed it, and Isaac and children and his children observed it, up to thy days. And in thy days the children of Israel forgot it, until ye celebrated it anew on this mountain. And do thou command the children of Israel to observe this festival in all their generations, for a commandment unto them. 1 day in the year in this month they shall celebrate the festival. For it is the feast of weeks and the feast of first fruits. This feast is twofold and of a double nature, according to what is written and engraven concerning it. Celebrate it. For I have written in the book of the first law, in that which I have written for thee, that thou shouldst celebrate it in its season, 1 day in the year. And I explained to thee its sacrifices, that the children of Israel should remember and should celebrate it throughout their generations, in this month, 1 day in every year. Okay, here. And on the new moon of the first month, and on the new moon of the fourth month, and on the new moon of the seventh month, and on the new moon of the 10th month are the days of remembrance, and the days of the seasons in the 4 divisions of the year. These are written and ordained as a testimony forever. And Noah ordained them for himself as feasts for the generations forever, so that they have become thereby a memorial unto him. And on the new moon of the first month he was bidden to make for himself an ark. And on that day the earth became dry, and he opened the ark and saw the earth. And on the new moon of the 4th month, the mouths of the depths of the abyss beneath were closed. And on the new moon of the 7th month, all the mouths of the abysses of the earth were opened, and the waters began to descend into them. And on the new moon of the 10th month, the tops of the mountains were seen, and Noah was glad. Oh, you guys hear about this? Okay. You guys know that Arkansas is in the Bible?
Really?
You guys know about this? Yeah. Look up Genesis, King James Version, 8:8, or Genesis 8:8.
Done. You can throw my screen up.
Yep. So
Genesis
8:8.
You sure?
8. Yep. Oh wait, not King James Version. Can you do ESV?
Okay. Oh gosh. All right. What are we gonna do here? 8:8. Let's go. Oh, hold on.
Genesis 8:8. Arkansas, America in the Bible, guys. Are you ready for this? Zoom in and read it for us.
Okay. Is that zoomed enough? It says.
More.
Oh my god. Oh, it doesn't really. Okay.
More.
All right. There we go.
Yeah.
But God remembered Noah and all the beasts and
Just go to verse 8.
Oh, verse 8. Okay, down there. Okay, there it is. Let's see. All right. Then he sent forth a dove from him to see if the waters had subsided from the face of the ground.
Oh, wait. Hang on. Shit. Okay. Maybe I got the verse wrong. Sorry.
Is there a keyword we're looking for?
Yeah, I just got the verse wrong. Okay. 13. Verse 13. Sorry.
Oh, okay.
Go to verse 13.
All right.
Read it slowly.
All right. In the 601st year, in the first month, the first day of the month, the waters were dried from off the earth. And Noah removed the covering of the ark.
Slowly.
And looked.
Oh, fuck. This doesn't have it either. Fuck. Okay, here. NIV. We got to go NIV. Sorry, man. Here, I've got it. I've got it pulled up. My bad.
You're good.
I forgot to tell the joke earlier when we were reading this verse. But, okay, Arkansas in the Bible. In the Bible. By the first day of the first month of Noah's 601st year, the water had dried up from the earth. Noah then removed the covering from the ark and saw. Noah then removed the covering from the Arkansas, that the surface of the ground was dry. Arkansas. You guys like that? Arkansas in the Bible. So.
This is why we stick to the KJV here, folks. This is why the KJV is the superior version, always.
Exactly. KJV. Arkansas. All right. Back to the Book of Jubilees.
Yo, throw my screen up for 2 seconds. If you don't mind. Someone asked, how do we know that the Lord God is not the same? Guys, check this out. This is the septenary gematria cipher. Lord, 13. God, 13. They add to the same. Just is what it is. And that's the true 13th, not Ophiuchus. God. You have the 12 zodiac signs and then God above them as the 13th. Okay. Let's hit Jubilee.
For sure. Carrying on with the Book of Jubilees. And on the new moon of the 10th month, the tops of the mountains were seen, and Noah was glad. And on this account he ordained them for himself as feasts for a memorial forever. And thus are they ordained. And they placed them on the heavenly tablets. Each had 13 weeks. From one, 13 weeks? 13-week calendar? No way. From one to another, past their memorial. And from the first to the second, and from the second to the third, and from the third to the fourth. And all the days of the commandment will be 52 weeks of days. 54 weeks. And these will make the entire...
That's 52.
Sorry.
2 and 50 is 52, and that is how many weeks are in a year.
Yeah, 2 and 50. The entire year complete. Thus it is engraven and ordained on the heavenly tablets. And there is no neglecting this commandment for a single year or from year to year. And command thou the children of Israel that they observe the years according to this reckoning, 364 days, and these will constitute a complete year. And they will not disturb its time from its days and from its feasts, for everything will fall out in them according to their testimony. And they will not leave out any day, nor disturb any feasts. But if they do neglect, and do not observe them according to his commandment, then they will disturb all their seasons, and the years will be dislodged from this order. And they will disturb the seasons, and the years will be dislodged, and they will neglect their ordinances. And all the children of Israel will forget and will not find the path of the years, and will forget the new moons, and seasons, and Sabbaths. And they will go wrong as to all the order of the years. For I know, and from henceforth will I declare it unto thee, and it is not of my own devising. For the book lies written before me. For the book lies written before me, and on the heavenly tablets the division of days is ordained, lest they forget the feasts of the covenant and walk according to the feasts of the Gentiles, after their error and after their ignorance. For there will be those who will assuredly make observations of the moon, how it disturbs the seasons, and comes in from year to year 10 days too soon. For this reason the years will come upon them when they will disturb the order, and make an abominable day, the day of testimony, and an unclean day of a feast day. And an unclean day of feast day. And they will confound all the days, the holy with the unclean, and the unclean day with the holy. For they will go wrong as to the months and Sabbaths and feasts and jubilees. For this reason I command and testify to thee, that thou mayest testify to them. For after thy death thy children will disturb them, so that they will not make the year 364 days only. And for this reason they will go wrong as to the new moons and seasons and Sabbaths and festivals. And they will eat all kinds of blood with all kinds of flesh. Jesus. Isn't that crazy how at the end there we see improper timekeeping being associated with adrenochrome addiction like
Absolutely.
flesh diet.
No
And it
coincidence.
even begs the question of, is 300, I've seen many YouTubers talk about this, is 364 days the original solar year? Is there something that happened that lengthened the solar year? Was there some transgression that man made that caused the sky to tilt? Or, and I'm not saying this is like how I think or whatever, but it's a
Mhm.
theory. Did we eat too much blood, or did we lose track and thereby push the seasons slightly out of sync?
Yeah, my pushback on that would just be, and again, I know you don't believe this or push it yourself, but it's a theory. But my pushback would be that it says over and over throughout the Bible that the sun runs its course eternally, does not change, etc., etc. So I would just say that we only got a better understanding of timekeeping as things go on.
Here's how I make sense of it. You're supposed to have the 364-day year weekly. You follow the week in order, and you can't get that out of sync unless you add an extra day into a week and fuck the whole thing up. The weeks should be always running 7 days. We use that, and when we calculate something like Easter, remember here God's saying, or Uriel, I forget whoever's talking here, but it's saying that 364. Hang on, I just got lost. Sorry. Okay. 7-day week gets you to 364-day year. But you can also use it with the solar year. And basically, I think God says here, don't confuse our feasts with the feasts of the Gentiles. Okay. And here's my theory on what the feast of the Gentiles would be. The feast of the Gentiles would be on the equinox, on the solstice, on the spring equinox, fall equinox. It's too obvious. It's too obvious. It's it's too overt. It's too repetitive. If you use the moon, that's kind of that's kind of adding a complication in a good way. But again, that's too overt too. How many cultures would do a full moon festival? Easter, today the churches determine Easter by picking a day of the week primarily. That comes first. The day of the week comes first. And in today's age, if there's any calendar that's been lost and neglected, it's the 364. Not having to do with the turtle shell, but having to do with the book of Enoch and the book of Jubilees. That one being taken out. That's what we're left to make sense of, is how do we use the 364-day year like God wants us to? It seems that's the one. Just how do we apply it correctly? What do you think?
I don't know. That's a tough one.
Yeah.
I'm a 365.25 day fan myself.
Yeah.
I feel like it works. So at least for the reality we live in as it is, it works perfectly.
Mm-hmm. All right, what else we got? We went through the Book of Enoch, Book of Jubilees, talked about the 364-day calendar. What else did we have left? Oh, the Essenes calendar. Let's talk about that real quick. Do you got any info on that?
I don't, honestly. Please teach me about that. I tried finding some stuff on it. This is the Enochian calendar that I had pulled up. A nice 364-day calendar like Longa was talking about. But the Essenes calendar, I couldn't really find anything. / ran out of time a little bit.
Yeah. So should we watch how are you feeling? Do you got energy?
Yeah, I got energy. I'm chilling. How about you?
Yeah, I'm chilling. Let's watch a video. Maybe we can learn about the Essenes calendar. Cool.
Yeah, the Essenes were the good Gentiles, apparently. or at least a group of good hippie Gentiles.
Mm-hmm.
But check this out, guys. The moon literally changes color. It literally changes color in the sky, guys.
Well, the Essenes were Jews, technically. Hebrews, maybe not Jews. I guess that's not necessarily true. They were Israelites, vegetarian Israelites. There was 3 dominant sects. Here, let me kick off the music.
Sure. Oh, yo, Magic Garden Mike put a good comment that you want to read in chat, I think. He said, I'm stoked. Let's watch a vid. Jesus was in a scene, right?
Yeah. Yeah. So there was 2 dominant sects of Judaism in Jesus' day. The Pharisees and the Sadducees. Pharisee, Sadducee. Those are kind of the bad guys that Jesus is debating, and he's dunking on them, giving them one-liner, the memes, like roasting them every single master, roasts, just roasting them, one-lining them, wrecking them with facts and logic. But so if Jesus is constantly critiquing and admonishing the Pharisees and the Sadducees, we know he wasn't a Pharisee or a Sadducee. I mean, almost there's near universal agreement about that. He was not a Pharisee, not a Sadducee. He was descended from the tribe of Judah on one, if not both, of his parents. But what was his culture? What was his religion like? Was he celebrating holidays with all the other Pharisaic Jews? By the way, the Jews of today, they claim to exclusively descend from the Pharisaic tradition. So Pharisee in the Bible, modern day Jew. That's as close of a link between the modern Jew and quote unquote Jews in the Bible as there is.
So the Ashkenazis are Pharisees?
Yes, all of them. Sephardic, Ashkenazi, it doesn't matter what tribe, they belong to the Pharisaic tradition. So that's not a tribe, it's not a tribe, it's a sect. It's a system of interpretation that you look back at Jewish history through, Hebrew history through. So Jesus was not necessarily Jewish the way that we think today. There was a big spectrum of people who called themselves Judeans or lived in the kingdom of Judah back then, or descended from the tribe of Judah. But in that broad spectrum, you had big differences in how they interpreted the Bible and how they celebrated different festivals and holidays. For example, the Pharisees and the Sadducees were heavily involved with the temple. Many people have called them the temple cult. They were sacrificing animals all day. That was their primary form of worship and, veneration to God. And they weren't very good at keeping time either, because the Essenes, one of the big things that the Essenes were angry about and splitting off from mainstream Judaism about was the calendar. Well, here, I didn't really talk about the Essenes. Since there's 2 dominant sects and Jesus is clearly not a member of them, what sect or what was the closest thing to what Jesus was? What tradition did he emerge from? Or at least what was he closest to? That would be called Essenian Judaism, the Essenes. Was Jesus a full-blown Essene? No. And we shouldn't, people kind of overstate that connection and say, Jesus was an Essene, he was this, was he a card-carrying Essene? Probably not. John the Baptist probably was, though. And John the Baptist split off from the Essenes, or kind of split off, And here's another thing. The Essenes were very loosely organized. The Pharisees and the Sadducees, very tight, top-down, pyramidal structure. They're in control of the Sanhedrin. They're uh, affiliating with the Romans and rubbing up with the Romans. They're very comfortable where they are in Roman society. The Essenes were outside of Roman society. The Essenes were like the forest dwellers, the desert dwellers, the hippies, the Burning Man, hippies. Not that much fornication and drugs, but kind of like that. Like they'd rough it out in the wild. They'd have fun in their own ways. They didn't need the city and movie theaters and restaurants to have fun. And that's kind of how Jesus came up a little bit, or how he was training. And that's how John the Baptist seems to have been living. And the Essenes were vegetarian. That was a big thing to them. What did we just see with the last, the Book of Jubilees? The connection between improper timekeeping and a bloody diet. That was something the Essenes held true to as well. They were very big on bloodlessness, minimizing, if completely removing, the consumption of animals. The Essenes were mostly vegetarian. Some would say entirely. Some of them, were like raw vegan extremists. And I think Josephus, or someone who's talking about the Essenes, said they lived over 100 years. They averaged over 100 years. Very long-lived people. They were healthy. They had some of these secrets from earlier in the Bible where people were, living hundreds of years. The Essenes still had some of that wisdom left. So Jesus was close to the Essenes. Now, something that Jesus was for sure was a Nazarene. There's a big debate. Was Nazareth ever a place? Or was it originally a place? Today we know there's a place called Nazareth. But in Jesus' day, was there even a place called Nazareth? A lot of scholars and academics say no. That came later. That was like a tourist attraction. Kind of, came up after the fact. Now that's debated. I'm not going to say, it was never a place, but there's a fierce debate. Was Nazareth ever even a place for Jesus? What we do know was a group called the Nazarenes. And the Nazarenes were, a subsect of the Essenes, or a similar sect to the Essenes. And they were vegetarian too. They were big on vegetarian. In fact, back then, that was almost synonymous with being vegetarian. Saying someone was a Nazarene implied they were vegetarian. One of the earliest terms for Christian, before they called it Christian, was Nazarene. Nazarene. And it meant vegetarian. So the Nazarenes, another word we can throw in is the Ebionites, the Ebionim, which means poor ones, right? I guess that name implies kind of a bigger emphasis on the group communal living, right? Giving up your belongings and stuff like that. But they were called the Ebionim too. And go look all these people up, but the Essenes were real. How Essenian was Jesus? We don't know for sure, but everything seems to align. And what else can we say about it? The Essenes, guess what calendar they used? 364 is the Essene calendar. They used the Enochian calendar from the Book of Enoch that we were just talking about. And they claimed to be able to use that to predict the coming of the Messiah. That's what they were trying to do, back then. And people today say that they have used the Enochian calendar to work back to determine the actual date of Jesus's birth and things like that. I'm not an expert on that, but it's all very fascinating. And go look it up, the Essene calendar. Maybe we'll watch a short little video here to kind of freshen up, learn about the Essene calendar.
The Enochian calendar is interesting, and this guy who is like the calendar expert, that guy I was telling you about, John Pratt, he actually rates it as highest. He gives it a 5 out of 5 with his little rating system of calendars. So that's pretty interesting. It works pretty well if you do it correctly, allegedly.
Here, we're gonna watch this. This is 20-minute video. We got time for that. I guess I'll go smoke a bowl or something. We can hang out for a nice little extra long stream here tonight. We're good. We got a full house though. People are loving it. Shout out to 400 in the chat here. Should have shouted that out earlier. Thanks to everyone for being here. We're eternally grateful. Glad you're enjoying the show. 400 peeps. Like I said earlier, make sure we're sparking up. Pour yourself a little liquid sunshine. Spark up a little ganja if you got it. And yeah.
Did you get that super chat read yet or no? I know you put it on the screen, but she sent that
oh yes.
Before you started reading.
Red Pill 78 wife with a $9.99 says, wishing you a prosperous new year, friend. Thank you, Red Pill wife. Guys, go check out Red Pill 78. I think is his web show. I've been on there once or twice. Good show, good politics, current events and stuff. Red Pill Network. I think that's what they call it. Red Pill Network.
Was that over the course of this summer? Was that what those shows were?
I think I did those like 2 years ago. Or
Okay.
a little while ago. I'll come on again if you want me. I'd love to. But thanks for the support. Okay, let's watch a little thing from the Prophecy Watchers YouTube channel. This is like an old TV program or something. All right, this is from the Prophecy Watchers YouTube channel, Ken Johnson. And the video is called Ken Johnson, the Ancient Dead Sea Scroll Calendar. Okay. Let's see if there's always mess with the speed when you're playing back videos to avoid copyright, guys. Nice little DJ trick there.
You're playing it faster then?
Yeah, a little bit.
Nice.
About the Essenes, and by the way, they had a calendar, and we're going to talk with the author of this book, Ken Johnson. And you've seen Ken before. He's been here many times, always writes on fascinating subjects that nobody else touches. Ken, welcome to Prophecy Watchers.
Thanks for having me back.
The Essenes, I think we've all thought about them. Maybe National Geographic, we would talk about some of the ancient archaeological digs and Qumran, and I think everybody's sort of heard about the Essenes, maybe a little bit, but I think to most people they are a mystery. They're sort of hidden away.
Yeah, it's amazing though, because when you go back and you look at the scrolls, they tell you everything about themselves, where they came from, the apostasy that hit in the first age. So it's really amazing to study, and their calendar is actually points to certain prophecies we were unaware of.
Now, they were a very godly and devoted people.
Yes.
And in past conversations with you, I've gotten the impression that the Essenes were kind of anti-Pharisaical.
Definitely.
And tell us a little about that, the culture.
Well, what had happened was back around 170 BC or so, during the time of Antiochus Epiphanes, the Zadok priests, which are the ones that are supposed to be running the temple or running it in a godly fashion, were ousted by this new group, the Pharisees and the Sadducees. They went to Qumran, took the temple scrolls with them, and became known as the Essenes. The Essenes are followers of the Zadok priest doctrine, even though they can't go to Qumran because they're not priests. So people tend to get that confused, but it's basically the Zadok priests.
Yeah, the fascinating thing, and we usually forget about it, but if you read the New Testament, Matthew, Mark, Luke, John in particular, and you read about the run-ins that Jesus and the disciples had with the priesthood and in power, it all fit together. It makes perfect sense because the priesthood did not at all favor a godly approach to life. They were sort of political, right?
Right. The Sadducees were political, just do what the government says. The Pharisees believed in life everlasting and wanted to please God, but they deliberately changed things. And the Zadok priests were saying you can't change things. The Zadok priests taught that there would be one Messiah with two comings. The Messiah would come and die for our sins. They even gave the date at 32 AD, and that all these prophecies would be fulfilled. But the Pharisees said, no, Messiah is not God incarnate. There is no virgin birth. He didn't come at 32 AD. So they changed everything. And the Zadok priests said the Pharisees were apostate. They called them the sons of darkness.
Now, how did they know? I mean, what would give them their clue when they said he would come in 32 AD?
There's a specific scroll, the Melchizedek document, that gives all the details for that. But basically, they had the writings of the patriarchs from way back when. And if you believe the patriarchs, that's Adam through Aaron, they basically tell you this is how you interpret prophecy. But then the Pharisees come along and said, no, that stuff is fake. We have the oral Torah, which is the secret stuff that Moses told us. And the Essenes said, no, that stuff is fake. So you've got two different doctrines. But as a Christian, I'm going to follow what the New Testament tells me. And the New Testament agrees completely with what the Zadok priest said and completely goes against what the Pharisees said.
And that brings us to the book, the Ancient Dead Sea Scroll Calendar. And you're postulating that this is, quote unquote, the real thing. This is the real calendar.
It's definitely the Essene calendar.
It's the Essene calendar, and it has a long history, goes back into history, and you cover that, all the way back to really the beginning of Scripture. And by the way, and before we go any further, probably most people have noticed there's a little round thing on the table in front of you, which shows up, and when you read this book, that little round thing is right on the cover, and it has a lot to do with the Essenes. Really amazing.
Yeah, this is a replica of a sundial found in Qumran, and it tells us how they do the calendar. Basically, it starts in the spring at the equinox, the spring equinox, and then you have the 12 months, each season divided by what they call a tekufa, or a solstice or an equinox. And it's a 364-day calendar where everything comes out in even weeks. So like Passover is always on Tuesday, the 14th of Nisan. And that helps immensely when you go through the Gospels and the epistles. When they tell you something happened 2 days after this, you know exactly when it was. And all of a sudden, prophecies and other things pop out at you.
So name one that really gets your attention, for example.
As far as that stuff goes, one that I thought was really amazing is that the Essenes teach that there are 4 festivals that the Pharisees didn't teach on, and they're specifically for the age of grace, or the church age. And they all fall on Sundays. It's the festivals of first fruits of the barley, Pentecost, new wine, and new oil. And what's interesting is all these fall on Sundays, and everybody tries to say, well, the Jews just followed a Saturday Sabbath, but they also had Sunday festivals. One thing is in Matthew 24 and 25, Jesus is talking about the end times to his disciples. And when you get to chapter 26, it says that when he'd finished this, he said to his disciples, you know that the Passover is in 2 days, which would be Tuesday, the 14th of Nisan, which means he gave this sermon to them privately on Sunday. And you see that as a pattern all the way through the scrolls and through the church ages. The church didn't change from Saturday to Sunday. Jesus didn't even change it from Saturday to Sunday. It's always been that way. And that was hidden deliberately by the Pharisees. There's a lot of other mysteries in there.
So where does the Sabbath fit here? The day before Sunday.
The Sabbath was something that was instituted by the law of Moses for the Jews. And it's extremely important. It's always been also.
Right.
We see it back at creation. And it's very important. It's set aside because the calendar can't be done properly unless you have the same 7-day cycle. Now, as Gentiles, we don't need to do anything, any sacrifices or anything. But when you mix up the Sabbath or mix up Sundays or mix up new moon phases in the calendar, you get off. And that was actually a prophecy that the Essenes gave, that the Jews at a certain point would apostatize. And part of that would be to go to a lunar calendar system.
Now, when you have a solar calendar, and theirs is a 364-day calendar,
right?
Do they have a leap year, and how do they take care of that?
Yeah, there's a leap year once every 5 to 6 years. The way that it works on the Gregorian calendar that we use, there's 1 day added every 4 years, and that keeps us even.
Right.
On a modern Jewish calendar, they use an entire month every 3 years. So their calendar gets way off before they fix it. The Essene calendar has a leap week. So it gets up to 3 days off. You add a week to it, and it's 3 days ahead, and then it comes back. So the first of the year, it always is within 3 days of the spring equinox, which on the Gregorian calendar is March 20th. So it's really interesting. It's very fascinating. It's very, very accurate. And it keeps the 7-day cycle in tune. So just like it should be.
Now, what I like about this book is, and by the way, let's not get numbers crazy here. You may be just like I am. Too many numbers, and I just say, oh, I'm losing interest. But it's not about numbers. It's about worship and a history of worship. And that's what really lights me up about this book, because you go back into history and you bring out aspects of worship that I had never even thought about. And that's the beauty of studying the Essenes to me.
Yeah, the whole idea that their time, at the end of their age, the Pharisees had apostatized, and they called them the sons of darkness and themselves the sons of light because of the use of the calendar. Not that that in itself was important, unless, of course, you are a priest. You know, if you do the Yom Kippur ritual wrong, you die. Well, if you did it absolutely perfectly, but on the wrong day, it's still wrong, and you die. So the calendar is very important to them.
Life and death.
Yeah, life and death.
Wow.
But the fact that it was prophesied and it was part of something that points to the festivals. We all know that Paul talks about Jesus' death as the Passover lamb. We all know the fall festivals point to the second coming. The summer festivals point to the age of grace, things that they were trying to deliberately hide from us. And it's important because it all focuses on prophecy.
And the fascinating thing, again, to me, is to know that there was a godly remnant in the days of Jesus. Because you read the Bible, you find out about apostasy and hyper-legalism and politics with the Pharisees and Sadducees and cozying up with the Roman government and all sorts of problems. Paul, it got in trouble, as we all remember. We came back from his missionary journey, and essentially he was arrested on the steps there of the Roman emplacement at the one end of the Temple Mount. And when Paul was arrested, it's almost kind of funny. He spoke in Latin to the guard and said, "I just happen to be a Roman citizen, so take your hands off me." But Paul was talking in terms of the reality of the Messiah. And these people were not at all willing to hear that. And when I read your book, it gives me a little insight into why. Because there was a real division in the way they looked at life.
Yeah, when Paul in Hebrews he's trying to explain Melchizedek, he doesn't go any further because he says you're dull of hearing. It doesn't mean that they were stupid. It's because if he would have started to explain it, they would have said, that's a Essene doctrine. We all know about it. It's heresy. We don't care. They'd already set their minds against the concept of Messiah.
And so the argument there on the steps of the fortress of Antonia just gives us a little insight into the cultures of the day, the cultural clashes. And that's what I've always thought when I read about the Essenes. And then they sort of disappeared to nobody knows where. They're kind of a mystery people. And I've always sort of dropped it at that, and until Ken comes along and writes books about them. And you make them come alive as a people, which I just think is great.
Yeah, the remnant were awaiting Messiah. They taught that Messiah would come and die for their sins in 32 AD. The very next Pentecost would be the time that we can enter into the covenant of grace. So they're waiting for this, and it happens when it was prophesied to take place. And all of a sudden we see in Acts, thousands of people accept the Lord on that first day. Many of them were priests from the Essene to Zadok class. And it's amazing that they were awaiting this stuff. So naturally they would disappear. They became us, went out and evangelized the world.
There's an ancient Jewish tradition on the eve of Pentecost called Decorating the Bride, where they stay up all night and they pray and they read a special parashas, that is, sections of scripture. And there's a tradition among the Jews up to this day that at some point in the middle of the night, the heavens will open for a split second. And if you happen to be praying and happen to be, your heart is just right, what you are seeing at that moment will be received by God. In other words, a tiny little opening of the heavens on the night of Pentecost. Of course, you stay up all night, welcome, the sunrise the next morning. And the Jews call that decorating the bride. And it's fascinating. We have that in Acts chapter 2. We have the disciples staying up all night until sunrise the next day. They go out and glorify God in the streets. And all these things fit together in a beautiful way. And I'm sure there were some Essenes there.
Oh, yeah. As a matter of fact, the Essene scrolls talk about that. The fact that when Messiah comes to start the age of grace, we would have a different covenant, a different priesthood, and there would be the bride of the Messiah.
Let's talk about the calendar. Now, I don't have this book open to the calendar, and if I did, I certainly wouldn't try to translate it for you. But you've got calendars in this book in 2 or 3 places, and tell us about the meaning of the calendar from an Essene point of view.
Well, the Essenes taught that there was the 7 days of creation. The sun, moon, and stars were created on the 4th day, so that's Wednesday, the 4th day of their week, and that's when the calendar starts. It's the Wednesday closest to the spring equinox. And so at that point it starts, and 14 days later is Passover, which is always on a Tuesday, and then it goes all the way down to the end of the year. The basic calendar has 12 months of 30 days apiece, so that's a 360-day year. But then the solstices and the equinoxes are added. They're outside the months, so there's 4 extra days. For the 2 solstices, 2 equinoxes, that's a 364-day calendar, which is how all the weeks are set evenly. And then you can actually go back through multiple ways and figure out the year. So the calendar system is actually pretty specific, because this is 2020 AD, and it's 57 something on the Jewish calendar. Well, it's 5945 on the Essene calendar, much closer to where the kingdom age would be than the Jewish calendar has it.
Now, to you, as I gather, and I'm going to ask you the question, do you think that the Essene calendar is quote unquote more accurate?
Yeah, it definitely seems to be, because when you go through the scriptures, even like back in the Old Testament, where Moses came down from the mountain and then God said 2 days later do this, or 5 days later do that, you figure out what that is. And on the Essene calendar, it always comes up to a festival or something that they're doing. The modern Jewish calendar, there isn't anything. As a matter of fact, in Daniel, when it says, blessed are you if you make it to the 1335 in Daniel chapter 12, we all know that that's from a festival to a festival, but it flat does not fit on the modern Jewish calendar. On the Essene calendar, it does, and the mystery's finally solved.
Wow, that's really interesting. And again, Ken sort of approaches historical study from an entirely different angle than I think most other scholars do. Have you gotten in trouble with other people? Do they say you have no right to write this stuff, that we don't believe that at all? Have you encountered any resistance?
You could say that a little bit.
Well, it's kind of a new way of looking at things, but not new at all if you really go back and look at the records.
Yeah, one of the things that I do get in trouble with is because there's a lot of people that love the Lord that want to follow the Jewish festivals, and they're following the modern Jewish calendar, which is lunar. If the Dead Sea Scrolls are correct, that is a corruption. Actually, it's a pagan system that incorporated with the Pharisees, rather. And so we should be following the original solar calendar that God gave us. Otherwise, as the prophecy said, you'll end up having the festivals on the wrong days and everything will get garbled. So again, we're not necessarily saying we can prove this is the original calendar, but it's the Essene calendar, and that's what the Essenes taught.
And so they talked about a solar calendar. Let's go back again to the sundial, because you spend quite a bit of time talking about the sundial. Talk about how we can gain a little knowledge, biblical knowledge, from looking at that sundial. How does it work? Because I'm sure people are looking at it and are saying, I don't understand that at all. It doesn't have numbers on it. It's how would you tell what time it is, or what do you use it for?
Well, basically, the way this is you set it up, and this particular model was found in Qumran at the entrance, so we know it was functioning at the time. It was 2,000 years ago. But there are lines or circles on this that mark the months. So as the months go by, the shadow from the center pole gets longer and longer until the summer solstice, then it gets shorter. And there's markings on here to mark which ones are the equinoxes.
Now, I see an outer ring with marks on it, and then an inner ring with marks on it. What are those? What is the difference?
The outer ring has 52 marks, and as you can guess, 52 is the number of weeks in a year.
Weeks in a year.
The center one, or the smaller one, has 30 marks, and as you can guess, that would be the 30 days per month. And so there's 30 days per month, and then there's a tekufa, and then there's after 3 of them. And so this actually allows you to figure out what week you are in on the calendar.
Yeah, it's 52 weeks. 52 weeks is 52 weeks, folks. I mean, that's amazing. But how do you know for sure that, or what they were doing or how they were using that thing? Because, like I say, it doesn't have any numbers on it and so forth.
It was a mystery for a while. The main mystery was exactly how you do the leap year. But the rest of the stuff was actually given to us in Josephus. Josephus explains how they use the menorah in the temple to figure out the leap week and how this works. So thank you, Josephus. But then there's also documents in the Dead Sea Scrolls, Book of Enoch, Jubilees, and a few others that describe the 6 signs that you use to figure out where you're at on the calendar. And so between all of those scrolls together, it comes out really well. And there were probably close to 200 fragments, and the University of Tel Aviv finally managed to put all those together last year. And it was really interesting to me when they said, we came up with a new word, tekufa. It has dropped out of Hebrew and nobody knew what it meant, but it's a solstice or an equinox. And so all that stuff is in the Dead Sea Scrolls.
And the word again is?
Tekufa.
Tekufa. And it talks about solstice.
Solstices and equinoxes.
Okay.
The markings of the 4 seasons, since they're outside the months.
We know what the summer solstice is. I mean, modern day America, we talk about the solstice. That is when the sun reaches its maximum extension in the sky. And then, from that point on, the days are going to start getting shorter and shorter and so forth. And, but the fact that the Essenes watched this and the fact that they linked their calendar, that calendar to scripture I think it's just amazing.
Yeah, it is.
I'm just sitting here open-mouthed. And when I read the book, by the way, I said, wow, this changes everything.
It really does, if you think about it. And then if this is correct, it means some of the Hebrew roots guys are a little off on things. But more importantly, there are 2 festivals that teach prophecy about the age of grace that we need to know about. So it's really interesting to know that there were things that they knew about Messiah that we have forgotten, and things about the first and second comings that we have forgotten. And it all focuses on prophecy. The scrolls say it's a serious sin to ignore Bible prophecy. I always thought that was amazing.
And they were actually looking for the coming of the Messiah. Well, if they were properly keeping the calendar, this group of Jews actually might have been expecting the Lord.
And you can get the 32 AD figure from Daniel chapter 9. I don't know if they got it from there or not, because they were known to be prophets, led by prophets. And Josephus and many of the other people say that the Essenes were always 100% accurate with their prophecy. They were in tune with the Holy Spirit. The Pharisees, on the other hand, said, oh, that stuff is past. That doesn't happen anymore. Interesting.
Well, now when I think of 32 AD, and again, I'm no calendricist. I'm not sure I'm even allowed to say that word, but I do remember 32 as the date of the crucifixion. Now, some people say 31, 33, I don't know, but 32 AD would be his crucifixion. Would they have known that calendarically, or would they have calculated that?
Yeah, because they have their calendar system all mapped out. Their calendar system goes in the concept of 7,000 years with a millennium at the end. So there's 6,000 years of human history. The 6,000 years are broken up into 3 ages of 2,000 years apiece. Each 2,000 years is broken up into 5 unas. Each una is 10 Jubilee cycles, and that's 500 years. So in the prophecy, in the Melchizedek document, it says the end of the age is the 10th Jubilee of their cycle. And they said that the Messiah would come and be crucified, die for our sins, that event to reconcile us to God would be 1 Shemitah after the end of the 9th Jubilee, at the end of the una of their age. So if you calculate that back, the end of the age was 75, minus a Jubilee, which gets you to 25 AD, plus a Shemitah, which is a 7-year period. 25 plus 7 is 32. So they were expecting, it's on our calendar, 32 AD, their calendar, 1 Shemitah after the 9th Jubilee.
Now that's fascinating. I don't expect you to remember all those numbers. And you don't have to. All you have to do is get the book, the Ancient Dead Sea Scroll Calendar, for your gift of $20. Shipping included anywhere in the U.S. By the way, if you go to Prophecy Watchers website, you're going to be able to see Ken's name and a whole list of the books that he has written. And you'll cross, you figure out what some these times prophecy, plus these other books. Just here, you sort of sit this very methodical. Whereas a lot of us, we go here, we go there. Hey, this is interesting. I'm going to follow that one for a while. But you sort of sit there and just find out how things work, which I like, because if you didn't do it, nobody else would.
When I first started looking at the calendar, I didn't think it would be that interesting. But since the Essenes had all those prophecies and they made it extremely important that we understand that, it must be important. So I kept working on it until we figured it out.
Again, what would be the single most important thing to be gleaned from this book, the ancient Dead Sea Scroll calendar?
The fact that there were Essenes back when that followed the Messiah, that have basically Christian doctrine. And our Jewish friends out there really need to stop and think if they want to follow the rabbinical model or look at what the Dead Sea Scrolls are saying, because it's not Christian at all. We didn't write them. So they need to think about that. And for Christians, I would say the whole fact that there are 2 more festivals that teach prophecy that we need to know about. That's pretty important.
It is important indeed. Well, I hope you've enjoyed the conversation with Ken today. I have, and there's a lot to be learned, a great deal to be learned.
Wow.
Shout out to Ken Johnson and Prophecy Watchers YouTube channel. Thanks for making that happen. But pretty interesting stuff. Now we're all caught up on the Essene calendar, right?
Yeah, 100%. That was excellent. That was really cool. I can't believe they think they're going to die if they do Yom Kippur incorrectly. That's wild. What a...
Yeah. Well, I wonder if this is one of those churches that donates to Israel, donates to... He called himself a Gentile, which was funny. But, yeah, good stuff calendar-wise. But yeah, man, we got another calendar show in the works. We're going to do like a post-New Year's show and talk a little bit about why New Year's is where it is. Maybe some other calendar stuff. We'll come up with it. But what do you... closing thoughts?
Timekeeping is tough, but if you go back and look through what we talked about, there's a lot of similarities between these ancient cultures, and they all came to these different similarities independently. So it just shows, they're all accurate in some way. And it's just a true understanding of astrology can really get you a large part of the way there, I think.
100%. And let's review the takeaways here. Okay. 365-day year, not a modern creation. It's rooted in tradition. It's cool, I like 365. It's not a big psyop. Okay, so enough of that. The months, December, September, October, why are they skewed or out of sync? They're not out of sync. You just need to start counting with astrology. Start at the spring equinox, start with March, and it all lines up perfectly. What else? Some good takeaways. The turtle shell is not a lunar calendar. It's an Enochian calendar. If you know how to count it, turtle shells aren't necessarily 364-day calendars. Only some are. And then the difference between 354 lunar or lunisolar year and then the 364, which is Enoch, Essene, tortoise shell calendar. And then we talked about the Essene calendar. So what else? That's pretty much everything we talked about.
Yeah, that covers it. No, the Noah's Ark stuff was great. What you said about the Noah's Ark and the fact that 354 plus 10 or 11 gets you to 365 is also a huge takeaway, I'd say. That's a pretty incredible theory.
Mm-hmm. Hell yeah. And yeah, we saw that it seems God was trying to push Noah in the direction of a 360 4-day year, maybe 365 day, but away from the 354, right? And that was reinforced in the Book of Jubilees. So, all right, guys, everyone have a good night. We'll see you next week. Thanks for tuning in. And let me cue some music up here real quick.
Have a happy new year.
Yeah, guys, go check out Wise Wizard Merlin. Here, we're already on YouTube. Guys, go subscribe to Wise Wizard Merlin if you haven't already. Merlin's YouTube channel. Nice new video out. Blavatsky was a fat fraud. The Ossify sucked. Go subscribe to him, guys. Gonna drop the link in the chat right here. Then also, while you're over here, go check out the Dr. Narco Longo YouTube channel. Go subscribe to this. This is my backup account and my non-Florida account. Hang on, is this bitch whining? Is this bitch whining? I better not be detecting some attitude from someone. I don't know. I won't say who. But guys, go subscribe to Dr. Narco Longo. I'm gonna drop the link in the chat right here too. All right, subscribe to my backup channel, astrology channel, and all right.
Good seeing everybody. Thanks for stopping by.
Yep. Everyone have. Hang on. I'm trying to cue up some music. No, not that one. Wait. No, not that one.
Oh, no.
Wild Florida.
Here we go. Good night.
Good night.
So get back, do you know I'm true?